2017. We are at the Western University of Health Science, College of Graduate Nursing. I'd like to welcome everybody here. Since we were last here, the president of the school, Dr. Larry Harkless, has retired, and we wish him well, and we thank Dr. Jones, Mr. Jones and the university for allowing us to come back this year. So we're happy to be here. Dr. Jones may be able to join us later, and if not, we'll have a representative in his stead come perhaps around noon. With that being said, I'd like to ask Kathy if you would call the roll.
Dr. Michael Zapp.
Present.
Dr. Judith Mann.
Present.
Darlene Trulio Elliott.
Present.
Maria Cardenas.
Present.
Christina Dixon.
Present.
Neil Mansdorf.
Present. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to make the announcement that the board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda for future meetings. Just to acknowledge we have some visitors in the room who may, if they wish, identify themselves, and there's no requirement to do so. Okay. Next order of business will be reviewing of the minutes, both September 8th, 2017 and December 1st, 2017. If we have anybody who has reviewed those, if we would like to approve the minutes,
I'll make a motion to approve.
both of them?
Both.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
A discussion, please. Hearing none, we'll take a vote on accepting the minutes. Starting with Maria.
Aye.
State your name and then I.
Maria Cadenas. Aye. Christina Dixon. Aye.
This was for the September 8th minutes.
September 8th and December 1st.
Both.
Okay, abstain from the September 8th minutes, approve the December 1st minutes.
Darlene Elliott. Aye.
Michael Zapp, aye.
Judy Nancy. Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We move on to the Executive Officer's Report. Mr. Naslin.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zapp. I would imagine Dr. Manzi doesn't feel like speaking because she can't. Okay, I'll have Andrea take over. Andrea, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Dr. Manzi has laryngitis.
Oh no.
Or something.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hope you feel better soon.
Thank you.
Okay. So good morning. We'll start off with the new licenses issued and renewals during quarter 2 of fiscal year 17-18 between October 1st and December 31st of 2017. In October, there were 8 permanent licenses issued. In November, there were 7. And in December, another 8 for a total of 23 newly licensed BPNs for quarter 2. For the renewal data, in the month of October, 93 renewals were mailed, with 85 renewed by end of month. November had 100 renewals mailed, with 93 renewals by end of month. And December had 91 renewals mailed, with 81 of the licenses renewed by the end of the month. The delinquent renewal notices were mailed to those that did not comply with renewal requirements 30 days after expiration. Next was our resident data. There was 1 resident added to our 3rd-year resident rotation list, bringing the resident license total count to 122. And now for the American Podiatric Medical Licensing Examination, the APMLE Part 3 update. The last Part 3 exam was administered on December 6th. There was a total of 29 candidates that requested their scores be sent to California. Of those candidates, 26 passed for a 90% pass rate. The next Part 3 exam will be held on June 6th, and candidates wishing to participate in the next exam will need to register by May 30th. And finally, we have a continuing education CME audit update. The December CME audit is now complete, and as of January 2018. Out of the 25 audited licensees, 23 have been found in compliance, and 2 candidates requested to have a license status changed to retired. Therefore, the BPM considers this audit as meeting 100% compliance. Finally, we have the BPM quarterly timeline. Any questions?
Any questions here?
Yeah, I do have a question. And it's probably more of a comment. So in section 4, in the next steps, we have a statement around providing excellent customer service. And so my question is,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Dixon.
my question is with regards to the sentence, the last sentence, in the next step section. And we talk about excellent customer service. And I'm just wondering, is that us saying we're providing excellent customer service, or is that something, do we have a standard of excellence that we're striving towards, I guess is what my question is.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. We're referring to staff providing excellent customer service in.
Right, so I'm trying to qualify, what does that mean? Is that us defining that for ourselves, or do we have a standard by which others can help us to ensure that we're providing excellent customer service?
I believe what we're trying to say
Go
here,
ahead.
what we're trying to say here is that we're continuing to provide excellent customer service, because when inquiries come in, we're pretty responsive and a quick turnaround time to help that customer.
Right, so it's us saying we are,
Yes.
but I'm saying, is anyone else able to determine if that's what we're doing?
Does the public agree?
Does the public agree with this? This is us saying that, and I'm not arguing that we shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it's like there's
There's multiple times where I've had people call my office and thank the staff for their service and how quickly they resolve the problem. I know Joseph gets a lot of phone calls. I receive a lot of phone calls, so does Andrea, that they were able to mitigate the problem quickly, and they did say that's excellent customer service.
okay. But do we have a standard by which we're
Well,
striving?
I think though, with this, because it's all about licensing and getting your scores done and getting, that type of experience of actually, getting ready to like the residents need all this. I mean, this stuff has to be done quickly because these guys are waiting to work, essentially. So I think that maybe it has more to do with, that's, us saying that we're going to try to continue to do that. I think that's all that statement's saying. Is there a measurement stick? Is that what you're looking for?
That's what I'm just
So I
wondering.
guess the measurement stick would be if, in fact, we were delinquent in, whatever we're promising them for turnaround. Possibly. So if you wanted another statement in saying, yes, we provide customer service by, turnaround being less than whatever.
I am aware of other boards that have a backlog in issuing licenses,
Right.
and we don't have that in our board. So licenses are pretty much issued as soon as they meet the requirements. So that's one standard.
Is there a metric that maybe we could see of when a call comes in, when it's resolved?
We haven't been tracking that data for now. I mean, we're a small staff. So that's a lot of additional work, but we try to get a turnaround time of 24 hours if possible, if staff's available.
So would that be a better sentence to put in there? That the staff would continue to try to, I don't know, resolve requests
So
within.
maybe the word excellent could be changed to providing thorough customer service within the guidelines we set for
Right.
ourselves.
I just think it's
For-
just about language. We just need to be
For
careful.
renewing licenses and answering.
I think that's
responses.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on the licensing program? Thank you, Andrea. We're going to move on to the enforcement program.
Thank you. I'm going to report on the enforcement unit activity for second quarter, October 1st through December 31st of 2017. Bethany D'Angelis reporting. I'm going to start with the statistics. Our complaint data, we received 31 complaints during this period. which is an 18% decrease over last year's same period, where we received 38 complaints. And our average days to close were 6 days, which is within the DCA target set. Our investigations, we had 34 investigations assigned for desk investigation, and 28 desk investigations were closed during the second quarter. Our desk investigation processing time has again dropped 48% over the prior year. This is due to Julie Brown at Medical Board, who has provided excellent service and hard work for us in this area. Now, our field investigations, a little more problematic there. We had 6 investigations assigned to the field, and this is close to what it was last year. However, these investigations were completed with a 94% increase in processing time. There is a high vacancy rate in the Division of Investigation at this time, so this is why we're experiencing delays with field case processing. I was able to speak to David Chris, Division of Investigation Chief, and he informed me that they have 26 applicants in background right now to fill 24 vacancies within the Health Quality Investigation Unit. They are have resolved to have this rectified by summer or fall of this year. And we did see a vacancy rate decrease from 40% to 29% in January. So they're making hires, and we should be seeing some improvements in case processing times later on this year. So this does put our total target at 157 days, which is not meeting the DCA target of 125 days. And this is entirely due to the field investigation processing times. But we're hoping that's going to see great improvement by the end of the year. Our discipline data, 2 new cases were initiated with the AG that quarter. 4 final orders went into effect. 400% increase because 0 same period last year were completed. We issued 1 citation this quarter, and we had 4 probation cases complete. 2 were successful completions, and then there was a license revocation and a surrender. At the end of that quarter, there were 10 active probationers. Our total data for quarters 1 and 2 over the quarters 1 and 2 of the prior year is provided in attachment D. And I'm not going to comment too much on that, except for out of those orders, we have a average days to complete at 507 days, which is within the DCA target set, looking really good. The main reason, though, was these probation cases go through fairly quickly. It doesn't have the long investigation phase. So that helped us to have these orders complete within a good time frame. Attachment E shows the Attorney General case aging data. And they have the 4 cases that were processed in December are on that chart. So those will be coming off on the next report. As of January 12th, there were 6 cases pending at the AG. There's no performance measure data at this time. No new data has been published since quarter 4 of fiscal year 16-17, but we should be seeing something in the next report. Any questions on the statistics?
I do have a question. With regards to the staffing challenges within the enforcement unit, so with the measures that the DCA has set for us, has there been communication? I mean, I'm sure they know that there's challenges with this. My concern is that we have targets that we're being tasked to meet, and when situations happen outside of our control, how does that get factored in to our inability to meet those targets?
I know there's been discussion at DCA regarding these timeframes and possibly adjusting the targets.
The team talked about that.
Yeah.
We made that request.
And nothing's changed yet. I don't really have inside information on what's going on with that, with the performance measures. I know there's a lot going on at DCA, so it may not be their highest priority at this time. But this time, they haven't changed. So,
is that something that the board can be useful with or helpful in helping to facilitate?
I'm sure we could bring it forward to their attention and see if they might be willing to look at making adjustments?
At various meetings that I attend, the director is well aware of it, also the chief of enforcement, and they are going to have a discussion in the future about those target measurements. So it's just in the works. There's a lot of turnover rate at DCA's leadership right now, so I think they just need to balance down and get focused and can have those discussions. So we're just waiting for that precursor to happen.
Who, you know, these people they're trying to hire, the investigative personnel, like, who are they? Like, are they law enforcement? Are they
all sworn up?
You're like, who are they?
So I can probably take this
Okay.
on my past experience. So when you have a new cadet coming out that has filled out an application to be a sworn peace officer in the state of California, by law they have to go through a background investigation. They have to fill out their application. They have to fill out a history packet that is probably 300 pages of everything they've done in their life. Once that packet gets filled out, it's turned to a background investigator. The background investigator, I don't know if DCA contracts that or they're done in-house. Once the background investigator gets that packet, they go through it like a fine-tooth comb, and they do all the follow-ups. They have to actually go out to neighbors. They have to actually go out and talk to
Right.
employees.
So they're actually, but the people that are qualified to do this job, who are they? They're
DCA, I don't know. Usually they're peace officers. In my old department, I had 48 of them that were peace officers.
peace officers.
They're peace officers, yes.
That's a police officer.
That's a
Like
police
you go
officer.
through police training.
Yes, you're a sworn peace officer.
Okay.
So they're background investigators, and that's what they focus in on the hiring process. And once they get through that stage, then they bring them in for a polygraph to make sure to validate the material. Once they do that, then they get a condition of a job offer. And then, rather if they're new cadets or new applicants, they have to go to the police academy, then they go to a police academy for 8 months. Once they successfully pass the police academy, then they go to a field training program that usually lasts anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Once they do that, then they go into their assignment. They're on probation for a year, and then once they pass probation, they get their.
Well, did 47 of them like quit all at once?
There's been a high turnover
Like
in
what?
investigations, and
Probably with retirements. So I don't want to belabor the point. I think the point is, it's concerning that we're getting backlogs due to things that are out of our control. It would be helpful for us to understand the timeline around when these folks will get up to speed and be ready to clear this backlog. I mean, I hear you saying by fall this should be done, but that's us assuming. So is it possible to get some by the next board meeting to have a clearer picture as far as how this is going to impact us, because this is public, right? So everyone knows this is the target, and if we're continuously reporting that we're not meeting the target, we need to be able to speak to, here's why, here's what we're going to do to help correct it, and if we as board members need to be available to help get DCA on board with changing those metrics as we've asked, then we're here to do that.
And also to add on to, Todd, because of the safety issue, is there a way that we can at least address a letter to, just state to DCA, we're concerned about this. This is a safety issue for us, just so it's somewhat on record?
I think, all of the boards are concerned, and all of the health quality boards, especially where the backlog is occurring, have been bringing this up. So it's being addressed. They know this is an issue, and we can, bring something forward to them in addition to what we already have.
So what I can ask for the next board meeting is we can generate that correspondence of our concerns.
So we have it somewhat in
Right.
writing.
We can do that. Also, at the board meeting in June, I think June, right? It's in Sacramento. I'll see if I can have the chief of investigations, the Department of Investigations come and present and see, give us more of a breakdown on the status.
And how does it also affect our budget, since we're not How does that, because I know we pay into some type of investigation,
The
correct?
pro rata,
Right.
right. I think the investigative cost is an individual line item in the budget. So basically, for the work they're not doing, we're not getting billed for.
Right, but when we get up to speed, I'm just worried that we're gonna have this huge hit.
Right.
So it's gonna show this.
Right. I'm sure we'll address that when we get to the budget portion of it.
All right.
There's a lot of things on there that are there.
Well, moving targets.
Right.
We have, I guess we don't do our expenses by quarter, do we? Your investigation and enforcement budget for that quarter, did it exceed our budget, the amount that you actually spent?
Well, we have a yearly budget that we use, and our costs did go up, which we're going to go into later when Kathy gives the budget report. We'll go into what happened with enforcement costs to kind of, there was a spike, recent spike, but. Any other
Really
questions?
contained?
Okay. Our phone issues, red pen, keeping everywhere issues. Try and get through this without any more problems. Moving on to the probation program. Probation cost recovery, we collected $32,192.16 during the second quarter. This is approximately $5,000 more than what we have averaged for quarter two in the past 5 years. So good. And well, that's it for our probation program update. Any questions on the cost recovery? Moving on to the consultant and expert program. This is an area that I've been focusing on recently to try to improve our consultant and expert program. I did recently send out a short survey to all of our consultants and experts to gather additional information from them, to seek feedback on how they feel the program is working for them and if they're getting adequate training, if they feel that the turnaround time that we request is appropriate, and any other concerns that they may want to bring to the board. So we can look at making those improvements. The survey results, I'm going to get that data next week, so it should be available to review by the enforcement committee in May. Consultant expert training has been another concern. We do a yearly consultant training. The next one should be held in June of this year. We also allow our experts and consultants to attend medical boards training. They had a training on November 2nd, 2017. 2 of our consultants did attend that training, however, no of our experts elected to take that training this time around. In order to address possible training deficiencies, I have been working with Solid to create an online training tutorial for our experts, and they did complete that recently. It was provided to the board members on a CD, and also the slides are attached as attachment F. And that should be available in the near future, very near future, through their internet page, so we can start utilizing that training. So this can ensure that our experts have at least minimal training before they take on cases.
Are we going to request that they do get the certificate to certify that they have?
I want to
completed the
ask
training?
for that because they can just say, yeah, I took it. So I want to verify that they've gone through the whole, training and then have that certificate at the end. So that is something that I want to have available.
Some of the writing on the slides I was not able to read. Is the script for this available for us to look at?
Yes, I can send it to you at any time. It's also, I don't know if you received the disc that had the entire training. It should have been mailed out to everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you didn't receive it, we can get you another copy. Finally, we don't currently have an up-to-date or electronic version of expert guidelines. We have an older version. It's not online or an e-copy. So I currently direct people to medical board's expert guidelines and inform them of the very few differences between our board and theirs. I do plan to use medical board's guidelines to create one for BPM. So we'll have our own that has our information in there. So hopefully that will be available. I'll be working on that in the next couple of months.
So I think, Bethany, for that, it's helpful when you make a statement like that to just follow it up with target implementation date by whatever.
Yeah, I'll have to kind of assess my workload. I've been really busy lately, but I think that's going to be slowing down. I just completed a special program with the department, so I should have additional time. Maybe I can have something put together by the next committee meeting, at least in draft form.
Yeah.
I'll aim for that. Finally, the consultant and expert evaluations. So this is something that the board's been concerned about for quite a while, and this stemmed from a single case where board members didn't agree with the expert's opinion in the matter. And they requested additional oversight of this area. And so I've been looking into possible options of how the board could have more oversight in this area. And at our last committee meeting, we kind of discussed this in depth, went through all the possibilities, and there was additional legal concerns that were brought out. We did additional research, and Tara came back and brought some points forward in her findings on what the issues could be to do this. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and read through each of these points. So there's an issue with the prosecution versus the adjudication process. The Administrative Procedure Act prohibits commingling of the prosecution, investigative, and advocacy functions with the adjudication function. If a member is involved in selecting a consultant or expert who participates in the prosecution, investigation, or advocacy of the licensee, the member is prohibited from participating in the adjudication of the licensee. Further, separate board committee task force evaluation of consultants and experts is unnecessary since the board is able to provide their opinions of each case during formal discipline deliberation of proposed decisions and stipulated settlements. The DAG and staff evaluations are submitted internally following the consultants and experts' work on the case, and that's the same point at which the board would be reviewing the consultant or expert's opinions as part of the deliberation of the stipulated settlement or proposed decision. So at the point that the board can review or evaluate an expert, the case is already completed, and there's no really option to review prior to that. Because then you'd have to excuse yourself from deliberating on the case. In addition, there's an issue with the contracts. We have the board has delegated the administrative and investigative functions to the executive officer. This is standard procedure. The review of typical board expert contracts reveals that a board staff member, rather than a board member, enters into the agreement with the contracting expert. So the executive officer is acting on behalf of the board to enter into the expert contracts. And these contracts don't provide for any board member evaluation or review of the expert. So it's not part of the contract process. Another issue would be public disclosure of the consultant expert evaluations. If the board members reviewed or evaluated each consultant or expert, there would need to be a closed session provision for this process under the Bagley-Keene Act. Otherwise, publicly reviewing the board's consultants and experts and unnecessarily undermining the public's confidence in the board's disciplinary process, as well as inadvertently providing information to bad actors seeking to gain the administrative discipline process. Although the Bagley-Keene authorizes the board to discuss in closed session the appointment, employment, evaluation, or dismissal of employees, it does not provide authority for evaluation of contract consultants or experts. Also, an evaluation of the contracted consultant or expert requires familiarity with the particular case in which the consultant expert provided an opinion. Those case records would necessarily have to be included in the evaluation review, which would make complaint and investigative records otherwise exempt from disclosure under the California Public Records Act, subject to public disclosure in the context of consultant expert evaluations. So again, we have some issues here as far as the public information of these expert reports available to everyone. We could redact information, but there's information in these reports that would clue people into what case it's attached to. So this could be an issue. And again, this could result in a decline of consultant expert participation, since there is no exemption under Bagley Clean or the CPRA. Then public evaluation by the board, committee, or task force is problematic for the consultants and experts, because if they were subject to public reprimand for their opinions on board disciplinary matters, they may not choose to participate any longer. I believe we also looked into the possibility of having a subcommittee. There was additional issues there because, first of all, who's going to be looking at it? It's going to be 2 DPMs. We're going to have a public matter member looking at it. This is very technical, information in these. So having DPMs look at it would seem to be the way to go because they're familiar with the technical language, and but then it might look like we're excluding public participation. I don't know if you want to add anything, Tara. I'm kind of stumbling over this whole part.
You did a great job. So, because of all of these concerns, most healing arts boards don't have their board members review each or any individual subject matter experts. It becomes obvious during the formal discipline process whether or not that expert is reliable or competent.
So that's my question. Like, anyone can say, I'm going to be an expert. So I take, so you look at their resume or you look at their qualifications, or how are we picking our experts?
So the board already has a policy for expert selection, and they have to meet certain requirements. So that is how they would be selected. They apply and meet the requirements, they can be an expert. That's how the other boards are also handling their programs.
Do other boards ever handpick their experts? Or is that, who'd say, like,
The board members themselves.
well,
No.
yeah, so I'm just saying that if you take a pool of podiatrists in California and you say, okay, well, in our expert, for me, if I was going to pick who would be great to like look at all this stuff, it would be maybe people that, well, I think you'd want a range of people, but maybe someone who's, I don't know, maybe participating in an academic program or participating in, because, like as an expert in, there are some people that lecture on these things. And,
So it seems to me that the board's process at most healing arts boards, they have open
role.
right, open applications where anyone in the field can apply to be a subject matter expert. So it's not the board actively going out and seeking, individuals. Right. It's really individuals who want to participate in public service, and so they want to be a subject matter expert in these situations. Then the board staff and EO review the qualifications, right, their CV, resume, whatever, to determine whether or not they're a good fit. Then they have to go through this training and certify, presumably, that they've gone through it. So there is that process for weeding out individuals who make this situation may not be a good fit for. Then, when you, as board members, go through the formal disciplinary process, you're reviewing a proposed decision or stipulated settlement. You're getting feedback on stipulated settlements from the Deputy's Attorney General as to whether or not that expert's findings were solid. You're using that to determine whether or not discipline is warranted, and it's through that process that you get to see whether or not that expert is good or not. And so does board staff. So board staff is receiving Deputy Attorney General evaluations of the experts, as well as evaluations from the investigators at DOI. So they get feedback that way as well to see if this person's
good at this. If they're not, then they're flagged for not, so that the board doesn't use them as experts anymore.
Depending on how bad it is, we can offer additional training or guidance, or simply not use them any longer.
As one of the people who brought this up originally, when I read one of the reports where an expert said that this was the standard of care, and I think that 10 out of 10 other podiatrists would disagree that that's not the standard of care. I guess everybody's allowed to have an outlier opinion about something, but I think the arguments you made are very compelling, and we can handle those. I believe we can handle those issues as they come before us in those cases, and we can flag them for review and we can discuss those. It just that would seem such an outlier that I wonder if there's something we can do. But I think your arguments are wonderful.
Thank you. First, I want to thank Tara for a bang-up job. You did a great job on the analysis, and you got back to us very quickly, because this had been kind of lingering for nearly 2 years. Finally, we came to an answer. The consensus of the enforcement committee was it really was an outlier case. It hasn't been such an issue, but if there is an instance where an expert is really so far off base, any board member who has an issue with it should also fill out a review form of this expert, and it goes into their file, and then would be analyzed by staff whenever they go to select experts in the future.
Yeah, so the overall findings show that the recommendation is to continue with our internal review process as we've been doing. And that concludes my report, unless there's additional questions on enforcement activity.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I think the point that you made around the training is key. If we find that there's someone who's off based on comments we're getting from the AG or just from our reviews, I think, you don't want to just throw people aside without helping to do some course correction, because it could be something that's really easy to help correct, because we don't have an infinite pool of experts running to help us, right? But at the same time, we do want to ensure that those who are in the pool are knowledgeable and are in alignment with, what our board and our standards are. So I think to Dr. Zapp's point, we do need to make sure that that whatever we're providing to them is sufficient to give them the knowledge and information that they need to do the work that they're tasked with doing.
Yes, I think the focus is going to be on getting them to this training and on providing them with the feedback from the evaluations we complete.
Any other questions on enforcement? Thank you very much, Kathleen. Kathleen, can I move on to legislative?
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Kathleen Cooper. I've got 3 reports to give to you. The first is 5C, legislative, 5D, the public education, and 5E, the budget report. So I'm going to start with the ledge report, and as you all know, we had a big change at the beginning of January, and it was implementation of SB 789 or 98, I'm sorry, but separation and jurisdictional changes to this board. What we now would like to address is the title of the board, and we understand that it's significant in many ways and not something that's compelling in others, but we did have a meeting about this, and the consensus of the legislative committee was to go forward, and as you can see by the attachments to the legislative report, we now have KB 2457, authored by Irwin, and it is called the Podiatry, California Board of Podiatric Medicine. So, as of 1957, I'll just give a short review. This board has been under the jurisdiction of the medical board, and many things came from that. Now we are looking at a title that doesn't quite match the other 2 medical boards, the MBC, Medical Board of California, and Osteopathic Medical Board of California. For consistency and true transparency with the public, we are asking in this bill to have that name recognized as the Podiatric Medical Board of California. The attachment looks very lengthy, but I can just tell you it is a global change that someone put in a Word document, and that's why all those pages are there. But it shows you how many areas podiatry is mentioned, and we're looking forward to seeing how far this bill can go and maybe get to the end of the legislative cycle without much resistance. We don't know of any resistance at this point, but the alternative was to wait for the next sunset review, which would really be quite a distance from today. It would be 2 years plus to get that change in. Being that it just happened last year, decision was made to go forward. So if anyone has any questions on 2457, perhaps I could help, or Brian, who's helped author this bill with Irwin. And in the end of your discussion, if you can get a motion for a vote to support or whatever position you'd like, that would be helpful for us legislatively.
So I got new information hot off the press yesterday. Nancy Farnsworth with the DCA, the IT group. The big question was cost. How much is this going to cost to change our name? So the big thing is the breeze, right? The breeze systems and changing the name globally in there and all of that. We just didn't know if it was going to be astronomical or if it was going to be minor. So I have an email from her. The cost is $48,000 to change the name. And there is somewhere between 188 forms in Breeze they have to change, and all the different things they have to do, the VO and all the computer stuff. I don't really understand the back end of it, but it's $48,000. I think this is outstanding because there's one thing we already paid for. It's called pro rata. So pro rata is going to absorb the cost of this name change. We already paid into it. So right now I feel pretty comfortable once the bill is heard. The cost is going to be very minimal. There's going to be analysis done. Everybody's working on their analyses right now. And budgets came up, we came up. There's going to be a minor expense, but absorbable. And that's going to be our staff time, changing templates, changing whatever we did with the jurisdiction of the medical boards last year. The licenses are going to change. So that's where we're standing. Very minimal impact financially to do this.
And it wouldn't be any different if we waited till the sunset review.
So it wouldn't be any different. It might cost more because of inflation. I don't know. Staff hours and time goes up.
So
Days
Brian, when can we see that actual assessment? 'Cause right
The
now it sounds like
assessment,
it's,
budgets, IT is finalizing theirs. Budget will be finalizing theirs, and I would probably say within 2 weeks we'll probably have some data and some analyses on it, and the other committees in the Senate too might start their analysis on it too. So as soon as I get those, I'll be pumping those out to you guys so you're well tracked and informed of what the process is.
and on the actual, the change in status from under the medical board to a standalone board, and forgive me if I don't remember if this was done, but have we done an assessment of, actually what the impact is to the board? As far as things like this, costs associated with, that we didn't incur before, but now as a standalone board we do. Have we done that level of assessment, just to kind of, so we know as a board, what this whole change, what kind of impact it means to us?
We haven't done that analysis, no we haven't. But however, nothing has really changed. The only thing that's changed is the jurisdiction separation. Our shared services with medical boards is still the same. The same workload is still the same. Everything's pretty consistent as being the same. But we can go ahead and do an analysis if we like, and to see what the workload. I'm not anticipating any additional workloads. Everything being consistent to the way it has been in the past.
I think it would just be helpful to see that as a check and balance, right? Because I know in anything that you do, you anticipate that there's no
And
impact,
probably when we
and
do
there's
our
typically
analysis on the bill, that's where we'll probably wrap up, cover a lot of the points that you're
And when do we anticipate that being? Because this bill is moving pretty fast, right?
I would probably say within a month, once
Okay.
we get the IT cost and the budget cost and everybody else weighing in on that, then we'll go ahead.
So our fiscal impact, we'll have a fiscal impact section for us. So I know typically the legislator does it, but I would like to see our board do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think on the front page of the bill, it says appropriations no, local programs no. What does that mean?
It hasn't gone before that yet, and I think someone mentioned appropriations, we'll see how they address this. Might be an issue.
Any more discussion? Can I hear a motion on our board supporting the bill?
Make a motion that we support the bill to change the name to Podiatric Medical Board of Television.
Through a second.
Mansfer, go ahead.
Start from this side. Judy?
Judy Benzie, yes.
Michael Zapp, yes.
Darlene Elliott, yes.
Neil Mansdorf, yes.
Christina Dixon, aye.
Maria Cadenas, aye.
Thank you very much.
So that's it for legislative. Now we're going to move to regulatory. There's 2 regulatory matters pending. The first one is disciplinary guidelines, uniform standards for substance abusing healing art licensees, which was mandated in SB 1441 quite some time ago. We are in the middle of making changes and updating it. We are using other outlines and other boards who successfully presented the regs to OAL, the Office of Administrative Law. And perhaps from now on, you may be addressing the item in enforcement rather than legislative. There may be some enforcement issues that committee may need to address. But I would like to defer to either Tara, Brian, or Bethany on where they are with the language right now, because they're working with the DAG.
I have the language. I'm revising the disciplinary guidelines. I expect to have those revisions done by, in a month for April for board staff to review, to present to the Ledge Committee in May. So you would then see the language as long as the committee is okay with the disciplinary guidelines. You would see them in June 1st.
Any questions about disciplinary guidelines?
I think we're just anxious to see it. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully this year will be that year.
Okay, number 2. You may remember that last year we had an unscheduled fee increase, and the language in the legislation allows us to increase these fees up to the numbers that are listed in the past fee rate and authority to charge up to the new fee rate on page 2 of my report. So in committee there was a consensus to go to the max, but we would need guidance now to decide how to prepare the package. Would you like to go to the max or a portion of the max, and then you can always increase it at a later time?
And I wonder if this discussion should be tabled until we look at the budget. Right? Because the fund condition may require us to go to the max.
That's a related issue, which if you'd like me to go right there, I could go right
I
there.
think it's appropriate to go right there. Bill, unless you had something you wanted to.
Well, speaking directly to this, the approved maximum fee was actually calculated based upon existing costs, not what we're projecting the cost will be.
Right.
My understanding is our prior employees, both Kia and Jason, did a great job of doing that. I think it's going to be revisited in great detail when we do it again. So we're going to look back at the fee study. And as you'll see, it's attached. The fee study has a lot of information. But I will address this in my budget report. It's only a prediction, and it may not be able to guess if pro rata goes up and enforcement goes up and full staffing, as well as other issues that we can't control, less licensees, etc.
So the max, are those predicted by a percentage of increase, or is that just
what happened with the fee study was the workload documents that are presented every year to the state are able to predict how long it takes an employee to finish a task. And the average was decided, and then we laid that up against how long it takes to do the task, to give the license or whatever, and those were how they set the fees.
I say go for the max.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. I think we work on issues. Like, it's crazy not to. I don't think these fees are outrageous.
No, they're not outrageous, and I think the analysis suggested that these costs were what it was costing us, not
Yes.
somewhere in between. These are the reasonable costs, so I think it is reasonable to charge the maximum in this case.
So you just have to vote.
I do have a question about the CME. We answered this before. Do we get very robust business in that area?
That would be nice.
That would be a really good area.
Yeah.
Do we advertise to people that we do this?
No, but it's out there. I mean, I think people who want to present know where to go to get approval from us to get the CME.
Can we get it at a more discounted price somewhere else? Do you know? I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not sure if they can, but this fee is just to provide a course, the $250. You know what I mean? So if I want to be a provider, I have to pay that, and then we would get a course.
So I'm gonna make a motion.
Is there another fee after you review the course?
No, I think they pay the course amount. If they're okay, then we give them authority to give CMEs on behalf of the board.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna make a motion to honor our initial request to increase the fees and go with the maximum that's reflected here.
I second the motion.
Any more discussion on that motion? Anybody? Starting, Maria?
Cadenas, aye.
Dixon, aye.
Mansdorf, aye.
Elliot, aye.
Zaff, aye.
Nancy, aye.
Thank you. Okay. The next item in the packet is the legislative calendar. And as we've all learned, by this time we have this March meeting, the date for new bills is over, but we've seen how that works. You know, there could still be new issues coming up with existing bills. So you might want to look at those deadlines as the next couple months go on. And you can see where we're going to be standing with the legislature.
I'd like to add, you might want to make an informal note, April 11th will be the California Podiatric Medical Association Day of the Legislature. If we would like to join all the podiatrists, we're going to be lobbying their legislators for some of our bills.
How many members of the board are going to do that?
There's usually about 30 people that attend, and probably almost everybody on the board will be there. There's our presentations in the morning in case our executive director would like to contact speaking with you.
So what time's that start?
What time would it start?
Are you-
I have a question.
Yeah.
You mean the CPMA day on April 11th? 9 or 10?
I'm sorry, what?
What time will your event start on the
I
11th?
think it starts at 9 o'clock at a hotel in Sacramento. And then the afternoon is visiting the legislators. And it's very well organized. They have about 100 people there. All the students from both schools are invited, and everybody's divided up into their own legislators. So the constituent leads the meeting with the legislator, and there's usually some students and other people interested behind them. And the appointments are all set up before you go, so somebody's waiting for you.
Okay, so that concludes my legislative report.
So Kathleen, before we move on, just a point of, so as a legislative chair, I would like to see opportunities like that Dr. Zab just put forth on our calendar. Because that's an easy way for us as board members who aren't, for the public members who aren't professional, who don't know about these things, to be able to participate and advocate, right? And I've been voicing that and wanting to ensure that that's a part of what we are doing. So I just want to see more opportunities identified for the public members to be able to engage in advocacy.
It would be a wonderful way for the public members to meet many people in the profession
Yes.
that they represent. Or
So it may be a scanning of the professional members and just, so they may know things that we don't know. And just ensuring that that's a part of our calendar and moving forward.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
Okay, the next topic is the Public Education Program Report, 5D. And we've gotten really great feedback from the footnotes publications that we've had in the past, and now we're starting to come under the deadline for the spring, summer edition. I know that Dr. Zapp has already voiced a willingness to do the cover page, and we've got to talk about deadlines, which will be coming up this month. But if anyone else has any topics that they'd like to address or to throw them out to us now, and we could maybe find a writer for those topics, we always cover the enforcement right after page 1. It's kind of like we're trying to have a theme, and page 2 and 3. And then we have some other topic in there, but the last issue and this next issue will have the center with students from the school. So we've already got the submissions of the articles. 4 were presented last issue, and 4 will be presented this issue. After that, we report on some topic. Dr. Manzi presented one on podiatric and medicine with diabetes and other trending issues in your field. So if anyone has any ideas or contributions, please let us know.
I have a question. The student part of this, what are they, what's that, what's their topic?
They are telling us what life is like and what our future licensees are going to be facing. And they have done topics of their own suggestions. What is it like to transition from being in a professional school to getting a job? What's it like to take time off from?
How about if there was an article written and, about, how many colleges of podiatric medicine are there in the country, and that California actually has 2 of the premier ones, and how many residency programs are there throughout the country, and how many teaching hospitals we have here that have podiatric residents, and sort of highlight the state for being kind of, very robust in this area, and outlining the training that they have to go through. And not just, because they have to do rotations. Did you know they do rotations in internal medicine, vascular surgery, plastic surgery? I mean, the residency program spend a year doing other things besides, foot and ankle surgery. So I think that, just an article that explains that might be good.
Sounds great.
Since it can tie in with the students.
Okay.
To tie back with Ms. Dixon on the legislative day, maybe putting something in there about that.
Okay.
Regarding.
How many legislative days are there usually a year? Just one?
Just one.
For this,
For
this.
session, yeah, there's usually a ledge day, you go to the Capitol.
Something we could consider. This could be really outside of whatever, but the board, the Podiatric Medical Board could host a breakfast or a whatever so everybody who's there on behalf of podiatric medicine, the board, and have a snack with us or something.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about in public education as the Western Foot and Ankle Conference in June. We have already set up a free booth, and I was going to take some staff and field questions and outreach and try to get more consultants and experts and try to answer scope questions, I guess. So,
or
Yeah.
answer questions. What do you do?
Right, I just want to start getting
Who
this
are
out.
you?
Yeah.
What do you really do? You have?
Maybe to add to that, I think that it might be an opportunity based on the conversations that I've heard and concerns about the diversity and demographic makeup of the field, making sure that we have both diverse voices or addressing maybe cultural barriers or other barriers that are preventing from the field from diversifying. And it'd be prudent to have this opportunity to raise those issues and maybe address it.
Thank you, that's a great topic too.
Well, and I think we talked about a little bit about how the baby boomers are retiring, and are we ready for that next kind of deficit in numbers? Yes.
And then I have a potential topic. Given that the board has changed, right? Not necessarily what we do, but our status has changed. Have we done any type of communication to the public explaining what that means? And then even with the bill that's out there looking to change the name, I think it may be a great opportunity to get in front of that from a public, not my words aren't coming together, but from a marketing public interest perspective to let people know that your enforcement stays the same. You know, all the things that you know to be this board is not changing. The only thing that's changing is how we function and what our name is.
In answer to the first part of your comments there, our website does reflect, of course, all these changes, and we've updated most of the documents that we've been able to find that are affected by all the changes last year, including the increase in scope.
Right.
But I know this issue that's going out, I know Dr. Zapp wants to address the change, and I'm sure one of those blank spots will address the second part of what you're saying, so that, yes, people will be apprised of what this means. Although functionally, we weren't able to identify what it really means to the practitioner. The licensee is not impacted too much by this. The new licensee will have a different name on their license, and that is big. Instead of, it's part of the medical board, it now just says Podiatric. So,
But I guess I'm more so, the licensees are one part of who we focus on. The public is the other, right? So I'm talking about more public facing, helping the public understand that if they go to a podiatrist who is now licensed by the California, whatever the new name is, that nothing has changed. It's the same, like we're telling our story as opposed to someone else telling our story to the public, because we need the public to go to those doctors.
good idea. So we can post something like that. Okay, so are there any other topics in public outreach or newsletter? Any other issues relating to this topic? Okay, so I'll conclude my report with that, and we move on to 5E.
Can I just have a little discussion about the Western Conference? I think I talked about it in the public education committee. I didn't get the full board. Is everybody in support of us doing that? Going to the conference and having handouts with fielding questions and stuff like that for maybe 2 days?
So
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. The board has generally been there, except
Hasn't
when
been
we
there
were
in the past?
for many years, with the exception of when we were running really short on budgetary issues.
And that could be a concern this year too,
Yeah.
so we'll have to entertain that.
There was, for a number of years, there was an issue about having our executive officer go to a meeting at Disneyland, which didn't appear to
Oh, the public.
the public
the
perception.
perception of it. And we would have perhaps somebody come down for a day, they wouldn't stay over. But I think it's still very important to have the board interface with the licensees. And also, there are plenty of public individuals or staff that's present. And I think they often have questions, so I find it valuable.
I could fully agree. Are you planning on speaking to the House of Delegates?
Yes, I got my official invite
That would be fabulous. Okay, great.
so I guess you can stand next to me.
You speaking over by the LA delegation, so I'm right in front of you.
All right, so then,
Anybody else have any comments on attending the Western? For the lay people, for the public members, the California Board of Podiatric Medicine has an annual meeting every year where the new president is inaugurated, and many podiatrists of influence in California will probably go to that meeting rather than any other meeting in California. It has a wonderful attendance of podiatrists in California. So to be at that one meeting versus all others gives you more access to more decision makers in California than any other meeting I could think of. So it's very important for us to have a presence there. That's where all of the movers and shakers in the podiatric profession will be at. Plus many just podiatrists who are not involved will come to that meeting for their continuing education. So we're exposed to a great cross-section of California podiatry. And certainly all board members here would be invited, and would find it very valuable to attend and to see what goes on. And the lunch in the House of Delegates on Wednesday is typically free.
You have them like in the office, like banners, posters, you know.
we might have all
Like
I
a-
believe there was something maybe back in Jim's time. Wasn't there a table?
right show,
Room.
kind of like an apron.
Yeah, we had that.
And then you could do, you know, we're changing our name. I don't know who outside.
It would be probably good to have a large poster for the booth.
We'll get Joe on it. He's pretty
You know,
creative.
you could do something too, like
I think so.
like a handout, like a bullet, handout thing, like, you know, what we can do for you or something like that, and then already have your California license. We can do blah, 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 blah. We need to get your California license, we do blah, blah, you know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
you do have students there, quite a few, and all the residents there. So, I mean, quite a few of those in there too, so something like that.
Well, and a lot of it's now too is making sure that you have web access and people can go on the website, and show the website and kind of walk through where everything's at.
Yeah, we have laptops now. We can get a display.
Which you want.
Right.
Hand out mints.
So I'm in support of having that outreach and having that presence, but I want to be very cognizant of the budget and the budgetary impact of doing so, considering the status of the fund and the growth in the budget itself. So
Yeah,
while
I'm
I support it, I want to know if it's
fully on
within the
board
budget.
with that. I just we need to massage this budget and see where it's going to land. If this is even achievable for the budget. If not, it might be just me going down rather than a few staff members. So we just have to see how that lines out. I'm totally on board with you on the financial concerns.
So will you provide us with some sort of analysis of that? Just what the impact would be? Like, what are your plans? I mean, because it's the one thing to have, you know, you come out, you start out.
The space is donated to us free,
Okay,
and it'll just be per diem.
okay.
So flight and hotel.
So that's kind of what you want to see.
Yeah, but if there's going to be a poster and how that's the sign and the label, oh, that has fiscal impact.
We
And
can use DCA under the pro rata to help us out designing if we need to design some. But I'm pretty sure there was some stuff like that before my time. Just need to discover what it is.
You can also have form letters for them to fill out supporting our name change bill.
Sure.
Question with the, we usually held an expert training program at the Western. Now with this online program, are we still going to have that?
We're going to continue with the consultant training
Okay.
in person, yes.
Continue that for right now. Hopefully it transitions over to online.
But will we provide an option though? I think the challenge was just moving to one platform of education is that people learn differently. So I just think we should just consider having an option. I mean, it's one thing to have it, that's our primary, but then you gotta, have some on the ground for people that may need the on the ground.
The difference is, there's a little bit of difference between what the consultants do and what the experts do. So the training is addressed a little bit differently. In addition, the consultants have a much heavier workload and they see a lot more cases, so having them trained yearly is beneficial to them. In addition to the additional duties that they have of probation monitoring and assisting the board in other ways. So I think that having the in-person training and the online option is a good idea to continue with that.
All right, so that's public education and outreach. And now we go on to a very important item, the financials, 5E. There are two pieces of paper that we should all be looking at so we can discuss them. Does anyone need to get them on the table?
So Kathy, before we start, I just have a question. So what was the challenge with getting this to the board in advance of the meeting?
Well, we had a meeting on Monday with budgets, and they provided us after with this. So this is what we've got now, which is, I understand, a little late for the board packet, but I want to preface my comments with this, that this is not what the report's going to look like in the future, and they prepared this just for us for this meeting. So we called a big meeting with budgets in order to get this document to you because we are not getting your reports right now, and we haven't since fiscal month 1. So we don't really have, this is our first data, and to be honest, I don't know if the data is even going to be reflective when we get to fiscal. The next report hopefully will be on the new system. This is still being pulled from the old system, and it's that our hands are tied, that we don't have data to put in the board packet. Each one of these meetings we've been having, and I apologize for that, but we really pushed to get this. So I hope it's helpful, and I'd like to talk about it a little bit as best I understand it. Okay, so if you look at what we call the fund condition, which is by law the governor's statement to the public that we will be sustainable. We project out 2 years. As you can see, there's in red 300,000, and they call that estimated savings. And the reason why they have to do that is because under the calculations for the fund condition, you must assume full expenditure of your budget, which at the beginning of the year was $1,499,000. We are padded a little bit, if you want to say, in our budget, so that, and we say this almost every meeting, so that we will never be tied in terms of fully enforcing every case and not feeling that we're tied in any financial way from enforcement because we're such a small board with a small budget. So if you look at this page now, and it's a fluid thing, the budget. Down on the bottom, we're down to 1.199. So that's the papers that budget in the yellow, second yellow column of the expenditures. You'll see that that's fluid. It's not 1.499 anymore. And we've never spent close to 1.4 or 1.5. We are always hovering at about $1 million in terms of income and expenses. Maybe 10,000. I think one year we were at an income of, not income, but we had more income of almost 60. But then the next year, it made up for it. So we teeter-totter a little bit with our dues income, with our licensees renewals. There's a little bit more in 1 year, and they're 2-year renewals, so the next year we're not bringing in quite as much. Well, what we're seeing happening is 1, trend, and 2, just a spike, an individual spike. So the one issue that's an individual spike, it doesn't really change the equation, is our current enforcement costs. They're very high right now this year, but we don't expect that to continue. But the parts that are affecting our fund condition as we project out are pro rata's gone up, we're at full staffing, and our licensee base has shown a slight decline, and we predict that in a very short time it will be significant because of the age of people who are retiring and will be retiring. So what this brought up with budgets is, better sooner than later. You don't want to show a negative ever. So we need to be looking at a possible renewal fee increase. 92% of our budget comes from those fees. The other 8% comes from unscheduled fees. And when we did a loose, I can't back this prediction up, it came from IT, but just loosely at the beginning when we talked about the unscheduled fee increase, maybe produce 11,000 each year, the increase, maybe not, maybe 11 to 14. We were really at a loss to predict what this increase in unscheduled fees would bring in. But that's not significant enough to offset what we're looking at for our future. As you can see, the fund condition is got a 0.1 month for the year. And that was putting in the estimated savings. So the math would be something like this, and I'm not saying I'm throwing this out, but say we stay at our current licensee base and dues went up $100, we would produce about $145,000, $150,000 more per year. Never able to raise dues over your cost, but we have data now from budgets that they may be able to provide for us showing that we will be at a deficit, that it's not wise to wait. And maybe I will defer now to Brian, who's been working on this diligently to see what he can shed light on this issue of raising dues.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. So budgets, we had this meeting, it was just a couple of days ago, to massage this paperwork out of them. Budgets told me if we continue with our enforcement costs the way we have been operating, our surplus or our extra money at the end would be $10,000. Okay. We have a spike in the increase of the enforcement. Maybe Bethany can talk a little bit about that. The AG's office, hearings, everything came at one time. You know, the AG closed cases, we had 2 hearings, so we had that spike. We're not anticipating running the rest of the fiscal year operating with that mindset and frame set and financial impact. So we had the AG's office run a scheme for us, and they say they have $60,000 more work left to do for the end of fiscals. So when you look down here, you see the budget of enforcement, attorney general, the budget of 214. We've already spent 157, that's 73% of that. And our projections is 230. My projections for the 60,000 is we'll be right under it, 213,000, which is a savings of 12,000. So that just increases us up to 22,000 in savings. So that's, well, I don't know how that's going to pan out yet because I need solid numbers coming from the new format of fiscal that's being rolled out, and all state agencies, all state governments, all state budgets are having complicated issues trying to get their reports, and we're one of them. Budget said it might be in our best interest to entertain a possible renewal fees increase. So what we did is I reached out to the Senate DP Business Professions Code Committee. They sent back a worksheet that we have to project out. We need to project the last 5 years and the future of 5 years with a whole understanding of the 10-year budget. We need to find out when this board, what fiscal year this board would possibly go into the red. I can't remember, was there something else that we need to project?
Basically, that's it.
That's it, right?
Revenue and expense.
So Kathy and I right now, Kathy mostly is working on those years, pulling back past reports for the past 5 years, and now predicting up to the next 5 years, which we're going to need budgets help in those predictions with the revenues that we have coming in. So once we get this analysis done, then we'll know exactly where we stand, where we might have our deficit in what year, and when the appropriate time to attempt a fee raise. So that's where we are right now.
So just a point of clarification. So for those of us that have been on the board for a while, we've done this exercise in the past.
Okay.
So the challenge I'm having is we're having very intricate conversations about finance and budgeting without proper information, right? So I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate the thought that's going into it. What I would like to see is a formal presentation to the board on this topic, specifically the budget, how we're doing. We've asked for this before, and we haven't gotten it yet. So at the next meeting, can we do a more thorough overview of the budget,
Through the budget
factoring
office?
in? I mean, it could be from you, it could be from the budget office. I just feel like we need to be able to see, because right now you're telling me this is a projection from them, it's not even final. So we want to be able to see what our status is financially, so that we can help advise and guide
Right, I totally
on
agree
next
with you,
steps.
Christina. I think the frustrating thing, I've been doing these budgets in a lot bigger kind of format for a lot of years, and the most frustrating thing I have is this global changeover in the state system to fiscal.
And that's
you know,
that's what happens in we get that. I'm not saying that I don't understand that. I'm just saying from a board member perspective,
No, I get it, yeah.
and being responsible for helping ensure that the board is fiscally sound. I just would like to see a more thorough presentation at the next board meeting, just talking about this very subject,
And I've already
looking
keyed
at that
that up
projection.
with our meeting. We're going to have the managers of the budget present that, especially to us, because it's going to be a huge learning curve for Kathy and us to really start analyzing these new fiscal reports. Because my brain's trained on CalSTAR, right? I've been CalSTARs all my life. Now I got a new report to analyze, and even the budget analysts are having huge difficulties deciphering the information. So there's a lot of training curve here, but we'll get through it. We'll get rapidly through it, and we'll get that information on the next board meeting, and try to massage what we can massage out of this, and what our next tactic would be, or next move would be.
I would make one comment. You know, I sign all of the expenditure billing, and so does Brian. He reviews them, and nothing has changed over the years, and I'm going back and forth now. It will be really hard to anticipate any major change and increase, but we're out of the decision making when it comes to pro rata cost. There are also a couple raises coming up for staff, and well deserved and long awaited, but we have no control over those. And what we're seeing now for the first time, and I understand you need the specifics, we've been pushing too, but we're trying to tell you that we can see that now the thing that has tried to be many years back, I know staff tried to get a dues raise and was unable, but I think we now have the data we need. You know, just the fact that we're pushing out the 300 estimated savings here for the first time to get to a positive prediction on the next year. And it tells us how close we are. So I think it would be less than best practice for us just to go forward and say, hey, don't worry about this. It's same expenditure. We're not expending any more monies. It's just we can see that the renewal fees aren't enough for the future to bring in to stay at the level we've been at. And maybe it will be much less than $100. Maybe it would be more. But we hope by the next board meeting or before, if we needed to call a special meeting to get this done, we'll have the data. And once we get the data, I think Brian and I we want to move really quickly with you to get you to make a decision to tell us what to do. Because we'd hate to get into next year and then be in the red.
Yeah, like Kathy said, I mean, things out of our control, the pro rata, SEIU 1000 bargaining unit, all state employees rather than managers and exempt. They got 11.5% increase in pay over the next 2 years. Also, there's an increase in retirement, also an increase in what the department has to pay in retirement. So these are all out of our control. These are all factors that we need to take a look at and make a logical assessment if there needs to be a fee increase. That is just the cost of doing business at the state.
So there was a big spike in investigation enforcement this year, so you're saying. What would prevent, say, 3 spikes from happening 2 years from
That's the uncontrollable monster. I think there's no, I mean, I'll say this right now. My job is consumer protection, so I'm not going to stand behind or let anything go. We're going to strive with those enforcement cases. That's our job of this board. So there's no telling. I mean, what happens if we get a lawsuit tomorrow for $700,000 or $7 million? You know, we have it. We have to go manage it and go through it. There's no. The only way to get more money is for myself to go to the legislature and testify why I wouldn't read it. tell you that would probably be the most exciting meeting to go to.
Would that have been different if you were still under the medical board? Did they help pay for some of that cost?
No, we're independent. That's the one thing, we're under their jurisdiction, we have no financial ties. There's no helping hand, there's no deep pocket to grab onto, there's no Uncle Bob.
Right, we could take out a loan if we needed to in an emergency situation. But like when somebody tried to bankrupt the board,
Right.
if it came to that, but it would be a loan.
Right.
But this isn't anything new. We've been seeing this trend over the past 8 years steadily declining, and it's an inevitability.
So this is what I say, let's get this new data, let's try to figure it out, let's keep the board very appraised of this whole situation. If we have to have teleconference meetings, we will have teleconference meetings. So we can analyze the data and see what our next plan is. I know you guys have been here before, you asked before, it's never come through. But let's give this a shot now, let's really take this, a hold of this and really analyze it with the professionals that we have within this board, the financial professionals we have also within this board. I'm sure there's a solution.
Can I add, I know here our licenses are slowly decreasing, but do we know what the influx of new students coming in? Is there an issue or something
Yes,
that we
one of
need
the
to?
professors are here and I asked her the same question. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And
Jacqueline Trog, Associate Professor here at Western University of Health Sciences College of Podiatric Medicine. Nationally, we're looking at a shortage of applicants to go into the profession. So it's not just our school that's struggling, it's every school across the nation that's struggling. And because you're getting applicants to become licensees from not only within the state, but people who come in from other states having finished their residency and wanting to come here for practice, you're looking at the national trend and not just the local trend.
The two California schools have how many graduates right now? And what's it look like 5 years or 10 years in the future?
I don't know I can't speak to San Luis Mary, but for us, we have not asked for an increase in the cap. Our cap is 50. And we, on average, graduate about 38 students, 35, 38 students
and that's annual.
annually.
And you see no up or down trend in that?
We are locked into the same national issues that other schools are going through right now, and that is just one, awareness of the profession, two, an increase in the number of allopathic medical schools that have opened up in the nation. So we're competing from the same applicant pool because many of our students come from similar interests, wanting to get into the medical profession and wanting to do something surgical. So they tend to have an interest in both when they are applying. So we always have to compete with that. And that there are an increased number of allopathic schools, even just within the Southern California area. We have, I think, 2 schools that opened up, UC Riverside and Kaiser School. That's right, the Kaiser School. Yeah, it's competing with the same applicant pool.
Sounds like a legislative task. Public education as well. And maybe your board as well.
Just a FYI, a license in New York is $377. A license. Just saying.
I'm pretty sure we're the highest of nationally, right?
All right, any more discussion on budget? Now, is that also the executive management report, or you have yet to do that?
Oh, we have to do that.
Okay, so any last comments on the quarterly budget? Anybody? Thank you, Kathleen, for a very thorough series of reports. Mr. Naslin.
Thank you. And it is that time again. It is the strategic planning. We are set for the second quarter, which starts in April. In the Executive Management Committee, I brought it up to the members of that committee that I thought, but I am now wrong, so I'll correct this, that maybe the staff could develop the strategic plan and I can come back to the board just to save on cost. That is not the way it works. So, the full board participation, from what I understand, because this is my first strategic plan I've done in DCA. So from what I understand, in April, Solid will reach out to each and every one of you for about a 30 to 45 minute phone call and pick your brain on I think some of you have done this before.
Yes.
So they make a phone call and they start putting together the data. They work with us as well as far as extracting information. They put all this stuff together for us, and then we have a work group. So all of us have to get together for an 8-hour work group session. So there's no way around it. We have to do it. Thoughts? on the
So
process?
just for clarification, as a board, we want to do that. That's
Yes.
our expectation, is that we are the ones creating the strategic plan
Right.
and not staff.
Right, gotcha. So, I was thinking we have June 1st, which is a Friday, our meeting. What happens if we try, May 31st? The Thursday, we all come down a day early, so we wrap up 2 events on 1 airfare.
Going to Sacramento?
Sacramento's going to be, which I think works well for the Solid group when we have to get together and work the subject team. So that's my thought. I talked to their coordinators and they said they'll pencil in.
So the thing to remember though, Brian, while you're saving on airfare, you're gonna have to cover our hotel costs. And hotel is more expensive than airfare. So it may be more beneficial to do a day where we fly up for the day as opposed to having to cover,
Whatever works for you guys.
right? I mean, I think
Well, I mean,
from a cost perspective, it's more cost effective. I mean, I think we need to look at the analysis and see.
I think a flight's like 500, right? And I think per diem
No, they're
is
not.
200.
They're like $250
Right?
if you get them early enough. Yeah. And hotels around Sacramento are expensive.
Well, we have to do the concur thing with the state, so.
So I think we should maybe assess, is it more cost effective to come up for 2 separate days? Or is it more cost effective for us to stay overnight and do a 2-day session? Because it's meals, right? It's per diem, it's hotel, and it's everyone from Southern California.
Right. That's up to you guys. I mean, would you guys rather do it that way?
I think
Or is
we'd
this a
rather see
suggestion to
The
start?
analysis to figure out which one is the most cost effective.
I think from the board, it really comes down to the cash outflow that it would entail. So it's not a preference of whether it's a 2-day or 2 different trips. At least from my stand, is really which one is the most cost-effective option, and I will be comfortable with that.
I'll look into it and then I'll shoot out possible dates within the time frame of, can we say May? Sounds good. We meet in the month of May.
Like the May 31st. Okay, you're talking about 2 separate days.
Yeah, do some meetings.
As long as you.
It's tough for everybody.
I'm amenable to staying 2 days, so whichever works. That-
Okay, I'll throw the numbers together and I'll throw it out there and we'll see which one works and we'll go from there.
No, we're not all going to stay here.
I have enough room if you want to. We can go to Tahoe. It's only 45 minutes away. I have a trailer too, so I can drive you.
I'll stay by the shower later.
And if you're looking at 2 days, if you could send us maybe some dates you're looking at, so
Yeah,
that we can at least.
I'll
have
I'll reach out to Solid and see what they have. Because I know this for a fact, to line everybody up on the day of the week, it's going to be very difficult.
I think I'd go for 2 consecutive days.
Because we're gonna be there the first anyway, so you're paying the airfare already, so just the cost of it.
Yeah.
Per diem.
Yeah, per diem.
And per day. Per
you
diem,
pay that
so-
anyway.
Yeah, per diem, yeah, you're just gonna get it.
Whenever you go, it's per diem, whenever you go, it's the air purchase.
You're gonna get an extra $37.50 on per diem, but that's all right. Okay, so that's all I had, and I'll go ahead and get that stuff out to you guys, and we'll go from there, but, yeah, that's all we have to do. That's all I got.
More on the executive management report.
That's it.
That's it. Before we go to closed session,
Dr. Zach, could you open up public comment at all?
yeah, I was gonna ask you before you go to closed session, if you'd like to make any comments about anything in general.
I'm here representing Dr. Jones, who offers his apologies. I'm Dr. Satterfield, Associate Dean of the college. Would this be the appropriate time to?
This would be exactly the
All
appropriate
right,
time.
well, thank you. Should I do it from here?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Well, we want to come to you for some advice. For the past 4 or 5 years, we've worked with the University of California at San Diego, their PACE program, the Physician Assessment and Clinical Education Department. And I think that originated with this board, the need to reach out to have a podiatric component to it. I came from the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio with Dr. Harkless, where I practiced for many years, and we had a similar program there. It has proved fairly successful, I believe. It's been responsible for re-educating the people that you send through the system for a variety of reasons. We've had about a half a dozen that we've done over the years. They spend a week with us. We put them through one-on-one training, didactic, workshop, and probably the most useful component is standardized patient encounters that are then filmed with feedback from the standardized patients, very candid, often to make a person who's gotten lax in practice to re-examine what it's like to be on their toes. I would not want to go through one. It's a good system. We're happy to continue this. However, we have a couple of limitations that we're facing, and we want to know if you think that they're too severe. One is the loss of Dr. Harkless, frankly. For those who've worked with him, he's a wonderful educator. He's very disarming. He spends immense amounts of time with people. We can't replace him. The second thing that may be a deal breaker is that we have lost access to clinical exposure for these people. Being at the university with the way medicine is practiced now, we would have, and if we took them to our remote sites at Arrowhead or Riverside Regional Medical Centers, we would have to put them through various trainings. They would have to submit for immunizations, TB testing, confidentiality agreements, and it is too onerous a situation for them. So we're happy to continue with what we can do, which would be the lectures, the one-on-one discussions, focused teaching on areas of weakness. We do a pre-test and a post-test for them. We do the standardized patient encounters. However, we can no longer take them for the clinical exposure, which was generally going with Dr. Harkless to Arrowhead to see complex patients, to see how he interacted with them, to remind them how to, gain a patient's confidence and how to communicate well with them. If you think that that is so important a component of it, and we cannot deliver it, we're going to have to step back and recuse ourselves from working with the candidates. But we need marching orders from this board.
So does no one go now to these clinics?
No, they do.
Well, they do.
They do.
So they have to. So they're sort of like being treated sort of like the externs have to, because they have to be approved and all
Exactly.
that. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal.
It is.
And is medical centers, are they reluctant to include that?
They are. We approached all of you where Dr. Jones is still on staff, Dr. Duvall. It was a no-go there. We approached the VA, which was impenetrable for good reason. And our own patient care center, which we thought would be, well, that's the best option. It's right here. And the medical director said no, they would have to go through the same screening processes that the externs do. It's a litigious world, I don't have to tell you. And
How many people is this per year?
it varies. As I said, we've only done a handful, maybe 6 to 8, of the candidates that you all have sent through the system. Never more, I think, than 2 a year.
So when we read a report that says they did the PACE program in San Diego, they really did it here?
When you read that, they did a component at PACE. And they go through a medical and a mental screening at PACE by a medical physician. They do mini MMI to see if there are any psychiatric issues or issues of potential Alzheimer's setting in, like people don't realize. And they go through some specific training there. They have a charting course and a prescribing course that they put them through there if those needs are warranted. But they lean on us for all of the podiatric.
Okay, board members, I have a question. You know, all these things are in review. Do they, when they tell them to go through a PACE program, is the PACE program, you do this, and you do this clinical thing? What's the PACE program like? You do a charting PACE program. Because some of these guys, it's bad charting or, it's like, it's like,
Depends on the issues
it depends on
that
the
are
issues.
brought out.
So not everyone goes here.
Right.
But many of them, well, some of them.
Some may
Because
just
it's a
need
clinical
record
issue.
keeping.
Yes, thank you, legal counsel, because I was just about to say.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you bringing that forward. We can't take board action on a public comment. What we can do is agendize this as a topic to discuss and get more thorough analysis and then be able to have an open discussion about it. But I would caution us to have open discussion and on an item that isn't agendized.
I will just say that PACE contacted me last week about 2 candidates, one with prescribing issues and one with charting issues, and they're pushing for me to schedule these individuals. I will go ahead and do that, but I just want to let you know that it won't have that clinical component. But I look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Yeah, I think keep in touch with Bethany and
Yeah.
you'll have to work through the
Yeah.
enforcement division.
But thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
For hosting
Thank
us.
you. Thanks.
Any other public comments or any other comments in general? All right. I think we're going to have a closed session now.
Can we take a small break before we move into closed session?
We can have a small break, yes.
Thank you.
At 12:44.
Got it.
Okay. Are there any discussion of future topics for the future board meeting?
I think we were going to add some information about the PACE program.
Yeah.
However you can do that, yes. Curriculum,
It'll be good to have a presentation on that, right?
who does what.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think the other agenda items came throughout the meeting, so I would just encourage you to reference back and just make sure that those items that were requested become agenda items.
Can I just make one recommendation? Because in this meeting in December, it would have been handy to have at least the draft minutes before going into a committee meeting. So if it's at all possible, if we can have draft minutes before the next committee meeting.
Definitely.
Anything else? I want to thank the university for hosting us. It was very nice of them and all the people that made comments. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Judy?
Aye.
Zal, aye.
Elliot, aye.
Master aye.
Dixon, aye.
Cadena, aye.
Great. I just used my hammer.